Much better. So, for those who don't know what I just said to you, I said hello to you in Carrier Teketh language. And so I said hello to you, you said hello back to me. So that's a good beginning. And so I had the pleasure of knowing Lauren for many, many years. Like minds seem to draw each other together. And so now she's here at Our Savior's Lutheran Church, and that's nice. She would be an added energy that's very positive for you. So I'm Darlene Macintosh. I'm an elder with Clightly T'nai Nation. I'm also an ambassador. I also am a cultural advisor at the Aboriginal Resource Centre at the College of New Caledonia. I am on seasonal break right now. And I do many, many things in the community. Like I do many welcomes, I do openings, I do prayers, I do presentations. So even through seasonal break, I'm very busy now. It's like I only had one job and a little bit of another job, but now it looks like I've got 2 full-time jobs. So something's got to give, right? And it never stops, but the fact of the matter is that my calling is to plant seeds where Clightly T'nai Nation is, who they are, what they're about, because they've been in this community, obviously, for thousands of years, but when I go out and speak, I'll ask how many know who Clightly T'nai are, and very few. And also, do they know what Clightly T'nai means? Very few don't know. Oh, welcome. I know you. And you're late. You're not that late. We're just getting started. So what will go around is I want you to give me your name and a little bit something about yourself, maybe that nobody else knows. You know, we're creating this sacred circle for us to do our work in, and there's always, I have a sense of energy all the time, and there's a sense that there's a little bit hesitation, don't know what's going to happen, and maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So first and foremost, don't be uncomfortable, because, you know, we're working on becoming one. Prince George is now a very diverse community, very diverse, so we want to be inclusive to everybody. You know, not just, we have our biases, and our biases sometimes gets in our way, and that's all we can see. So we need to come from open minds and open hearts. So we'll start with you, lucky you.
My name's Joan. I'm, I guess, a first-generation settler in this unceded territory, and I don't know, something that people don't know about me. Maybe they don't know that I'm 56. I don't know.
You look great.
No, I'm 56. Yeah. Can't think of what else. I love to sing and love to play the piano. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Grace. I'm Joan's daughter, so I'd be the second-generation settler. And I work here at the church. I've been here my whole life. And I'm studying acting at Capilano University.
Hi, Darlene. I'm Robin. What can I tell you about myself? My ancestry is Sami, and I studied traditional Chinese medicine for 5 years and then had to put that on hold because my husband was ill, and now I'm studying theology.
Hello, my name is Lauren. Something that I kind of alluded to today in the sermon, but you may not know, is that I am absolutely crazy about canoeing. It's one of my favorite things to do in the whole world.
My name is Jody. I also work at the college. I raise chickens, and I am a new dance mom who's just survived her first year of troop as of last night. So, yay! I work in student services.
Oh, are you new?
I've been there almost a year.
And that is finally, like, I knew we had a brief conversation, but I couldn't place you. I was like, I know this person. My name is Kristen, and my entire life I felt like I never really fit anywhere, and it wasn't until I started hanging out on my husband's claim while he was prospecting that I started to feel like I fit into the land. So that was really why I'm really interested in these type of things.
My name is Louise, and I'm a retired early childhood educator, and I'm a new great-grandma, and I love being out in nature and just exploring new ideas about plants, and I really enjoy walking.
My name is Anne Marie, and through COVID, I've been a student of the Enneagram, which is personality from the Desert Fathers, really. And it's been very exciting. It's been transformational for me, and it's also a spiritual growth path. So, and I did get my certification, so that was very arduous, but it's wonderful.
Congratulations. My name's Ruth, and I was trying to think of something you guys wouldn't know. Some of you have known me longer than others, so I don't know. Grace knows this, but I went to Capilano College when I began my post-secondary, and I'm curious at how much it's changed. Yeah, and I was just doing beginning introductory college stuff. So
I'm Claire, and I'm Ruth's husband. What you don't know about? Well, I mean, just for right now, our grandkids, we've got a 4.5-year-old, no, 3.5-year-old, almost 4, sorry, and daughter who's granddaughter who's 4.5 months. 5 months, right? 5 months, and they're just fantastic. We just love them. But they're not close by, so that's the problem. One's in Ottawa and one's in Nanaimo. That's.
My name is Heather. I'm a librarian at the university. I don't know things that people don't know about me because I'm pretty open, but I just turned 50, so there's that. I grew up in Sinclair Mills, which is way out on the east line in the traditional territory of the Lake Tenay. I am extremely connected to the land, living in the bush, very aware of the cycles of nature, where the plants are, all that kind of stuff, and I love that.
So thank you for sharing. That's wonderful. So I'm just going to go what I normally go. I hesitate because I don't know what your expectations are, but we've got to start somewhere, right? So the first thing I'm going to get you to do is put both your feet flat on the floor. And I want you to close your eyes just for this moment in time. Just close your eyes. So as you close your eyes, I want you to take a nice deep breath throughout your whole body. Nice deep cleansing breath. We usually take that breath through our nose and then slowly let it exhale out of our mouth. So just think about the burdens that you're carrying on your shoulders, the fears, the anxieties, the trip going through COVID for the last 2.5 years. the disconnection we had. And I want you to start breathing into your shoulders to release all those burdens. And as you breathe into your shoulders, I want you to feel them sliding down your arms, down your fingertips, and dropping onto Mother Earth. And there, Mother Earth takes those energies and she transmutes them into a positive energy for you. And with a smile on her face, she hands them back to you. She hands the positive energy so that you can fill your whole vessel, your temple, up with positive energy. And remembering the first day you were born, you took your first breath of life. And you never stopped breathing for 70, 80, 90 years. And what do you call that? You call it a miracle. Each and every one of you are a miracle. You come to this earth plane to be in service and to have a purpose, and this to bring joy into your life. We don't come here just to play around and get into trouble or do what we want. There's always a reason. There's always a bigger picture. And we have to know how we fit in that bigger picture. Within ourselves, within our family, within our friends, and within our community and our country. Just imagine yourself out early in the morning and you face the east direction. You see the sun start to come up. You feel the heat of the sun on your face and on your body. There might be a little bit of wind blowing. And it caresses your hair and your face. It's like feathers caressing you. And you look around and you see the beauty of Mother Earth. And you give thanks. And you are in gratitude for your surroundings, your connection with Mother Earth, as she sustains our life here on this earth plane. She gives us everything we need. She gives us food, a house, clothes. We have a beautiful, clean environment, pristine water, clean air. And so as we think about this, we think about how we are in gratitude for what we have here in our community, what we have here in our country, because the majority of the world's countries don't have what we have. We are very privileged people, and we take everything for granted. We never think and just stand for a moment, breathe the clean air and have a drink of pristine clean water. Yet over in Africa or Afghanistan or now Ukraine, those people don't have what we take for granted. And we complain about the littlest things that really don't affect us in a big way. But we have nothing better to do than to complain instead of looking at all the gifts we have. And that goes from our street people right up to the very wealthy in our community, because we can access just about anything that we want. We have support, we have community support. And so when we breathe into our body, we acknowledge that. And we humble ourselves to all that we have. And we give thanks. We give thanks to the Creator, God, however your belief system is. So as we're standing in the east direction and we look around, we take another deep breath all the way down into our feet. We feel our feet sink into the deep, rich soil of Mother Earth. And there we can smell the richness of her soil. We can feel it between our toes. And there she grounds us into today, into this very moment, being present to what will be taking place for the next little while. And this we are grateful for. We're grateful as we create the sacred circle for us to do our work in, as we come with open minds and open hearts. And we let anything that does not align with our highest good fall off of us. Our biases, our belief systems that don't coincide to what Creator's put out there for us.
Just turn it off while you do that.
Okay, like this? Here? Okay. Sorry for the interruption. So just continue closing your eyes. We ask Creator, the grandfathers and the grandmothers, and all of our ancestors, no matter where you're from, to come be with us today. Creator, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the gift of community. Thank you for bringing all who are gathering together, which is inclusive to all walks of life. All religions, both men and women, as all equals, sharing the responsibility of balance, harmony, with all that lives on this earth plane. Creator, hear our prayers. When we say all of our relations, we incorporate all that lives on Mother Earth, our environment that sustains us, giving us all that we need to live, a roof over our head, food, clothes, all the necessities of life that we take for granted. Creator, hear our prayers. We are blessed with pristine, clean water, clean air that gives us life. We need to support that in the rest of the world. Creator, hear our prayers. The understanding that all faiths emanate our soul's calling as we enact kindness, generosity, integrity, truthfulness, humility, and selfless service to others. We sit quietly, listening to our soul. We speak the name of our Creator with reverence and unconditional love. We spark the light within and then share it with others. Creator, hear our prayers. We are all different belief systems of how we give blessing and honor to you, O Great One. In the end, we are all the same, all in the same place, believing only in one Creator. You who are known by 1,000 names, you who are the unnameable one, we are so blessed by you. We are in gratitude for all that you give us. Creator, hear our prayers. In our world that's gone through trials and tribulations, we have endured over 2 years of COVID pandemic, the disconnect for humans, The death that occurred was devastating. The world as we know it was turned upside down. Climate change, the war that's going on, has upset the balance and harmony of our world. We come together as we uplift the energy, bring us all back as people who care for each other. Creator, hear our prayers. Creator, you are there for us on our journey called life. You have given us the gift of free will, unconditionally loving us through our mistakes and experiencing life. You always show us the light to follow, and sometimes we are blinded by it. There are no words that can humanly describe the most holy of holiest. Each and every one of us comes to a place within our hearts where our light shines the brightest. In this place we meet you, Creator. Creator, in the diversity of who we are, there are many blessed names for you. In this, all names hold a most sacred vibration of praise and our deepest love. Within our hearts, we see a mountain. At the base of the mountain, there are many paths for our life's journey to the top. The billions of people of our blessed world called Mother Earth find their path that leads them back to Creator. On top of the mountain, we all gather together to meet our Creator. We are different colors, we speak different languages. Ultimately, through all of our diversity, we are all the same, journeying on a different path of belief. We all arrive together to be embraced by the most holy of holiest. In this place, we enter into Creator's domain of total unconditional love. Dear Creator, we are so blessed to come together in your name. From the deepest part of our hearts, we thank you for the opportunity to come together in your light, giving prayer, praise, and reverence for all that you are. Creator, hear our prayers. Creator, hear our prayers. All my relations, merci. Thank you. So there's so much to talk about, and so first of all, who knows what Kleitli means? Put your hand up. See, this is what I'm talking about. You know, it's as easy as Googling. That's how easy it is to find out this kind of information.
What if we knew the link for that? I know I do, but it's not there right now.
So, Kleitli, the first word, it means where the two rivers come together, the Nechako and the Fraser River. Tene is of the people. It's a carrier word, it's a Decaf word. And all the northern area is carrier. Carrier is a derivative from the French, actually. And it refers to when, say, my husband died, I would carry his bones or his ashes on my back for 1 year. And that's just honoring his memory. And so we do that, and then from there we, have an ending because, grief and sadness with somebody who dies in our family, it's not an overnight thing. And so within that year, you can start to think of the good memories, the not so good memories, the where are you going to be without that person that has left you, right? So our traditional territories, which I can pass this around, in the black area is the surrounding of our traditional territories. So I'll just pass that to you. And our traditional territories stretches over 4.3 million hectares, from the Rocky Mountains to the beautiful interior plateau, which includes Prince George. And to understand the magnitude of the size, 1 hectare equals 2 acres of land. And the Clately-Tenay community occupies 4 Indian reserves totaling 675 hectares within and adjacent to the city of Prince George. Now, the reserve lands we don't own. They're federally owned. So in days gone by, when they enacted the Indian Act, they put the First Peoples of Canada on reserves, and they did not do that to the settlers. Why would the settlers come in and get free land? I think it's 150 acres to homestead. My dad was Ukrainian Polish, and his grandfather came from the border of Austria into Canada on the east coast, and they traveled across to Alberta to Wasetna, Vegreville, which is a Ukrainian community in Alberta. And his grandfather got land to homestead on. Yet my mother, her family's been here for time immemorial, got stuck on a reserve. So there's, our history is sad, but we don't stay in that place. We move forward. We never stay stagnant. I mean, we've already been here over 9,000 years as supported by lithic evidence. So it says we are an enduring people, and we will be here, and we aren't going anyplace. But the wonderful thing, since 2015, when we were co-host to the Canada Winter Games in town here, prior to that, Clately were nobody. Nobody paid attention to them. Nobody cared. They were just a bunch of dumb Indians. And it's sad to say, because, I don't look at our diverse community now and say, oh, there's some dumb Italians, dumb Chinese, dumb Scottish. You don't do that. But then you have to remember 100 years ago, and we come from the energy of England, which was very pious and self-serving, and they were the only ones who knew anything. So, what do we mean by our traditional lands? What does that mean to you? Anybody know? Exactly. Yeah. So that's our traditional lands, that we are stewards. First Nations believe that we are stewards and protectors of our land and water. And it goes in the medicine wheel where, the yellow people look after this, the black people look after this, the white people look after that, and the red people look after that. Another thing. Indigenous, right? And I should go into, which was really kind of interesting. So the government imposed names for us at one time. We were known as Indian people, right? From Christopher Columbus. And then they decided to change it to Aboriginal. And then they changed it to Indigenous, They're making the names for us. We don't come up with the names, federal government. So what I pulled up was, it says the word Aboriginal does not properly describe the group of people it is referring to. If it's broken down into the Latin roots, the ab part of Aboriginal means away from or not. So technically the name means not original, which is opposite to the intended meaning. Aboriginal, okay? You're a defect. The term Indigenous is in many ways a more appropriate term to describe Indigenous people worldwide. Indigenous comes from the Latin word indignia, which means sprung from the land, native. using the term Indigenous, therefore it links Indigenous people to their land and respects their claim over it. So that's what the difference is. I myself prefer to call ourselves First Nations people, okay? That has more of a connotation or connection with me. So I don't know necessarily if I want to go into, I can go into, but you were wanting to know the connections to the land more so than anything?
Any insight into living for settlers living on the land in a good way?
Well, I think that's already starting to take place. I really feel that, when the rodeo, which is very ground roots settlers, okay, the rodeo, when they come and ask us that they want to build relationships in a good way, that's what they're doing. Settlers are doing that. They're acknowledging and they're respecting, and that says a lot. Many different things. I did a welcome for the Filipinos. I did a welcome for the French Canadians. So it's so nice that relationships are now being built in a positive way and collaborating rather than, they come and ask instead of making an assumption or just moving forward ahead, right? They're acknowledging the traditional territories of the Clyde-Litene Nation, right? And I have another photo here. This is of British Columbia. This says that no matter where you go in British Columbia or across Canada, you are on somebody's traditional territories. And I will guarantee you that you will either work with or for First Nations people, because that's where it's going economically in many different ways. And so you should know whose traditional territories you're on. Like Lauren has worked in Saikaz, so she has to know what the traditional territories of Vanderhoof is, or Burns Lake, or Nakasley, Fort St. James, right? And because I'm an elder with Clyde-Litene Nation, I can give an acknowledgement or traditional welcome to Clyde-Litene because I'm here on our traditional territories. But if I went to Nakasley or Burns Lake or a place like that, I can't do that. I'm not an elder of their community. I can acknowledge their community, but I cannot give a traditional welcome. So there's lots of protocols around individual territories. So the land that we encompass is east of the Rocky Mountains to south towards Quesnel and west towards Vanderhoof and to the north to Summit Lake. And that is based on traditional knowledge and shared with our elders because we were oral, right? We passed on our information orally. And we would interconnect with other communities that would support. And that's what the potlatch or batlatch is about. Does anybody know what a potlatch is? Oh yeah, librarian, of course. Do you want to share it?
It's a gathering that would happen on a regular basis. It's not annual necessarily or anything like that, but and that's where you would do a lot of ceremony, a lot of politics, a lot of all the community type things that happen. And it's also a sharing and a redistribution of wealth through gifts.
Yeah, we can do it for deaths, for births, for naming, and why? Because it's orally, okay. So we come from a clan system, and so the clans are seated in certain positions within the hall, and so of course we welcome, we seat you, we feed you, we share gifts with you, and the whole idea, and we conduct business in a potlatch. our particular community has not potlatched since 1947. Why? Because we were so urbanized, so close to Prince George, which we lost a lot of our traditions being so urbanized. Whereas if you went to Fort St. James or Burns Lake, they're in that tight community, so they've kept their traditions. So Clyteley has become quite an enigma in that, you can't find a book or find lots of history. We do have history, but it's more probably in the library or...
It's hard to find. It's very hard to find.
Yeah, it is. There's not a lot of history. So, and also too, because our communities were so oral, we didn't have written language until Father Maurice came with the syllabus, which is also a Cree derivative too, so we've applied it there. But what, you could probably tell me a little bit more on that too, couldn't you?
Tell you about the Bill Poser dictionary, but actually Lauren could probably tell you more on that.
Yeah.
No? Okay, sorry.
So anyways, it was to witness what took place. So if Lauren came and she was Clan Bear and she was talking about maybe certain parts of territory that her grandfather owned or whatever, and we would discuss it within a potlatch, and so that would be recorded, but it would be recorded orally, and so I would come and challenge Lauren and say, no, that's not part of your family's territory or whatever. Well, we have how many witnesses that says, no, this is what took place. We are witnesses to what took place, okay? And the Indian Act had banned potlatches 1876 or something. And what it meant was it took away our governance system to a degree, because it was a governance system. And I always look at and if you've not read, there is, where is it now? If you Google on the web, 21 things you may not have known of the Indian Act, because it's simplified, right? It's not in detail. And it would just blow you away. It's like we come together here, okay, and the federal government came, and so you guys are all natives, right? Back 100 years ago or whatever. And they wanted to take the Indian out of you. They wanted to assimilate you so that you're part of, the settlers' way of being. So John A. Macdonald in 1887 legislated. He says, the great aim of our legislation has been to do away with the tribal system and assimilate the Indian people in all respects with the other inhabitants of the domain as speedily as they are fit to change. That's what he said. He's changing them, right? And so that's where residential school came in, because, so they come into your community and they want to take your children, put them in residential schools. So I want whoever, one of you, to stand in the center there. Who's going to volunteer? Who's brave enough to volunteer? So you're either a mom or dad of these kids they want to take away, and they've imposed all these laws, So you're going to start taking your shirt off. Imagine.
Wasn't expecting that.
And then we're going to take your pants away. And we're going to take your shoes away. Now you're in your underwear. Now I'm going to take your bra away. I'm going to take your unders away. You're standing there naked, vulnerable, and you have nothing to say. You have no choice, because you'll be beaten or put in jail. So that's what the Indian Act did to the people of the first peoples of this land. They took everything away. We had no power whatsoever. If we dare take our children, says, no, our children aren't going to go to residential school, I'm going to put you in jail. And you will be punished. I won't give you food. You can sit down. Yeah, so, just imagine, and then you got your little 5-year-old beside you screaming. And he took that child that doesn't know how to speak English away from their mom and dad. Like, if my mother would not have married my father, the chances of me being in residential school would be there, because my uncle went. My mom's youngest brother is a year older than me, and him and all my mom's siblings, including my mom, went to LeJac Residential School. And my grandmother died, and my little uncles, at the time were, 6 or 7, they were not allowed to go to the funeral because it was a privilege. It was a privilege that these children, if they weren't sent home, they were sent home because it was a privilege that they got their children back. Some of the kids never even went home during their school years. And, my mother went from LeJac into Kamloops, where they found the 215 unmarked graves. She would have completed grade 10. My mom was extremely smart. But if she would have went further, number one, you couldn't go past grade 10. And if she would have went further to graduate and maybe go into university or whatever, she would have been disenfranchised. And she would then be classified as she wasn't an Indian anymore. How can you take culture away, your blood away, like, wow. So when they went to the residential school, they took who we were away. We were people of the land. We hunted and fished. We could tell what weather was coming, and we supported each other. My mom relayed this story that on the reserve, actually, Shelley, it was, and she was a little girl, and they had a ton of snow. She said they'd open their door, and they'd have to have a path out of the door. There was so much snow, and it was so cold. Because you can remember, like 30, 40 years ago, when we had minus 40 weather. We don't get it anymore, but we did at one time have, and for long periods of time, too. So anyways, their reserve for food was diminishing, and this whole community was starting to have lack of food, or maybe to the point of they weren't going to have any food. And they, of course, looked out the door, and lo and behold, there's a moose out there. So, of course, the hunters go, and they are able to shoot it and kill it, and then share the meat amongst the community. And they looked at it as, because your environment is so in tune with you, the animals are so in tune with you, and it was like they felt that the animal had given his life up for that community. And that's what their belief system was. They never overhunted. They never overfished. They moved their, if we weren't nomadic, but of course you had to go and move where the berries were, or the moose were, or where the fish were. And today it's not like it was many years ago. My mom lived on the north side of the Shelley Reserve. She said at one time when she was small, you would hear the salmon coming up the river, and you would hear their fins above the water, and it was like a whistling sound. And then you would see red, and she said you could literally walk across on the backs of the salmon. And now we're lucky if we even get any, very few salmon up the river now. And that's climate change, that's overfishing at the coast, and many other things, right? So also, our rights to hunt and fish were also taken away. I don't know if you ever read Arthur Manuel. He was chief down south someplace, and he wrote a book, and we had him up at the college, and he was speaking to our group, and what really resonated with me was when he said the federal government gave the First Nations people of Canada 0.02% of the land mass of Canada. And you had to be economically viable on 0.02% of the land of Canada. How can you do that? You can't do that. And yet, the settlers so enjoyed the wealth of our forestry, our mining, and then they wanted Clyde to sign a treaty with the government, and it was just pittance, nothing. It was pocket change, and so of course we reneged it. 2 votes, and both times we said no, and which was a good thing because economically we're viable now. We have many businesses, and we're moving forward on a fast rate, and it's so positive. But at one time, first of all, you have to go back 100 years when they burned our village at South Fort George, now known as Clyde Memorial Park, and they moved us to Shelley, okay, and that is 16 miles towards McBride, okay. Now, 100 years ago, 16 miles is a long way to be walking. Put them way out in the bush. And the thing is, at that time, it was still the mentality of divide and conquer, because the 2 reserves are split by the Fraser River. They're not on one side, they're split. We have a north side and a south side. And when communities are split, they have different ideas. They're not together as one. They're 2 separate communities. So they were still trying to do that divide and conquer stuff, right? And I remember my mom telling me my grandmother, who was 5 foot nothing, and she would dress up, put her heels on, and she'd walk the railway into Prince George from Clyde many years ago. And but getting back to the treaty, and what it said is that in this treaty it says you Clyde people can have a foot and a half of the ground. So if you dug a foot and a half down, or as deep as the shovel would go, you're entitled to that. But everything else under that is government owned, which means we still had nothing. Mining, anything like that, we had no connection to it, because that would have been in the treaty process, and we are so lucky not to sign like some of the other nations. And so many years ago, they had what they called Indian agents, and it was just some Joe Blow off the street that they put in charge, right? And sometimes these people were bad, because you know what bobbleheads are. You're an ego, your head's flopping back and forth because you're not in your heart, you're an ego. And anyways, so he gave our men permission to go and hunt. They needed to have a permission tag signed by him to say that they can leave the reserve for 2 weeks to go and hunt food for their family. And if they were a day over, they were in trouble. They would get put in jail. They needed permission. Can you imagine? Just shakes your head, At one time, women were denied status. When my mother married my dad, her status was taken away and she was given $20. She was no longer an Indian. Yet, if an Indian man married a white woman, she got her status along with the kids. like it's so male oriented, or authority or dictatorship or whatever. And that changed with Bill C-31, and I think 1985 they came and told my mom she could become an Indian again. If you can imagine, she got her status back. She couldn't care less if she had it or not. But it enabled me to get it, and I didn't get it for a long, because I didn't need it. I mean, I worked, I was okay, never lived on reserve, and I was fine. I'm up to my hour already. And anyways, but my sister was involved with the band. She says, we need your vote, we need your vote. Okay, then I'll get it. But yeah, so I've got my status, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't really mean that much. I'll quickly go through some of this, and you guys can investigate this by checking on the web, the Indian Act. So it denied women's status, it introduced the residential schools, it created the reserves, and it renamed individuals European names because they couldn't say the traditional name of the individual. And the enforced enfranchisement. And when our men went to fight in the world wars, they were disenfranchised. And they were not allowed back on the reserve, yet they were heroes in another land. But in Canada, they were just a dirty Indian. And so now the federal government could expropriate reserve for roads, railroads, or any public works. They could move the entire reserve away from a municipality if it deemed expedient. They could lease the uncultivated land off of our reserves to somebody else, which they did to Clyde Lee. You go on the north side, and it is cleared for like acres and acres where there was beautiful timber. I remember that beautiful timber when we used to go and visit relatives there. Prohibited the sale of alcohol to First Nations, prohibited the sale of ammunition to First Nations. They weren't allowed in pool halls. They imposed the band council rather than the traditional system of traditional hereditary chiefs. And they forbade First Nations for practicing their traditional religion. Exactly. Made them starve. And so they declared the potlatch and cultural ceremonies illegal. They even denied us the right to vote, and that didn't happen until, I'd have to look up, but very recent anyhow. And the last reserve was closed in 1996. And yes. Sorry? They're residential schools. Yeah. So, and getting back to Lauren, we, not only First Nations people, but all of you, just think about how intimately connected you are with our environment. The trees breathe out, we breathe in. We breathe out, the trees breathe in. We need our environment, we need the trees. We need the pristine water. We've clear cutted, and what's the end result? We have floods, and we looked after the environment so that it was in balance and harmony. And then you have these conglomerates come in, and all they want, their greed, and all they want is money for their shareholders. But here's a question. What are you taking when you leave this earth plane? You're not taking any money, not taking your house, not taking anything, but what you were as a good person on this earth plane. When the Egyptians say, they believe in the reincarnation aspect, that you keep on coming back until you learn your lessons. And I believe that. You know, everybody has a different belief system, but I believe that. Because how can you learn in one lifetime all that you need to learn? How can you learn it? You can't. And we might have to come 2 or 3 times to learn one thing that we are resistant in learning. And the Egyptians believe that when your soul becomes as light as the feather, then you can finish that reincarnation thing. And that kind of makes sense to me, right? We cannot be blinded by a doctrine that has been imposed on us for over 3,000 years ago. I remember reading a prayer, and it was beautiful. It was talking about Creator God, and it was just like a prayer we would say today. And it was done 200 years prior to Christ even being born. So where's that coming from, right? Like, there's always been a belief system that there is a greater being or energy or whatever. And so we work at being good people. We come from heart and, challenging ourselves. You know, we talk about truth and reconciliation. So I say to you, what is your own personal truth? And how do you reconcile with yourself? Once you understand that, then we can put it out to our community with truth and reconciliation. But it has to come from us first and foremost as blessed human beings on this earth plane. So in saying that, I don't know how long I started this. I don't know, maybe 10 years or thereabouts. Anyways, they asked me to start doing traditional welcomes representing Plate Lee. I had no mentor. I had no teacher. I didn't know what to say. I would shake in my boots as I would get up and say something, because, it hadn't become a part of me. So I thought, okay, so then I started thinking, so if I do a traditional welcome you to our traditional territories, what am I going to say to you? Well, I thought, I'm going to tell you who we are in a few words, right? So, we'll all stand, please. So take another breath all the way down into your feet. And look at this beautiful circle that we've created. This sacred circle for us to do our work in. That we are all connected, that we become one. We're not separate, we become one. So we, the Clayton Tenay Nation, have been on our traditional lands over 9,000 years as supported by lithic evidence. The changes have taken place over thousands of years, supports the enduring strength, courage, and fortitude of our peoples. Our governance through the battle has brought balance and harmony with our brothers and sisters of other First Nations people. Clayton Tenay's clans are Frog, Lasilu, Grouse Utsut, Beaver Sa, and Bear Sus. Through this system, we know who our family connections are. And why is that? Because if you were in England and there's going to be 1,000 or more Smiths, they're not all related. They don't know who they're related to. But in the clan system, if I'm a frog and in another community there's other frogs, we know that we're related somewhere along the line. Through our oral history, the use of legends told of our travels, our hunting and fishing territories, our trading practices with all peoples. May remember and hold steadfast in what Creator's blessed us with, and that is our traditional territories. Our ancestors have always welcomed people to our territories on behalf of Clayton Tenay's elders, our youth, community members, and chief and council. It is absolutely our honor to welcome each and every one of you to our traditional territories. All my relations must see. Why do I say all my relations? You know.
I know.
Would you please share?
It's about all the connections that we have.
Yeah, so really, in fact, you're all my relations. The environment, the trees, the animals, the stones, they all hold a vibration, and they are all of our relations. We're interweaved. We are all connected. We are not separate. One piece adds to another piece. It's like putting a puzzle piece together. You're each a piece of that puzzle. And when we put it all together, what does it do? It makes a beautiful picture. All my relations. And I would say snachalia to you. Snachalia means, we could say merci, which is a French derivative, which is thank you. We could say merci cho. Cho is big. Big thank you. But when I say to you, each and every one of you, snachalia, it is a very heartfelt thank you that says, you honor me as I honor you. Snachalia. Yeah. Thank you. Please be seated. So are there any pertinent questions? You've got like 1 minute.
Do you think that the Lakeway today will restart a potlatch?
Oh yeah, we're working towards it. Yeah. They have done it in the school system. They did it at the House of Ancestors, and yeah, but it will take time. Yeah.
When I think about some of the stories that I've read and heard on the interconnectedness of First Nations with creation,
Mm-hmm.
and the earth and the creatures and the trees and like everything, all nature. I guess I want a better understanding of, like I've read some stories of just how there's a need for, like before you cut down a tree, praying and asking permission, and that's just so foreign to settlers, you know, and it's just that it's just so seen as inanimate and not life, you know, there's no spirit behind it, and I guess I think that's something I just want to understand more of, and what your understanding is.
We believe everything has spirit. When you think about it, everything does have spirit, because everything has energy. And they weren't put on this earth plane for no reason, you know, and, you know, animals especially, you know, our domestic animals, you'd never find a more unconditional loving relationship with an animal. You could get mad at it, you could kick it, but it always comes back to you because it loves you. You know, and they're like, what I would call them earth angels, right? And like, we have this ceremony called sacred ceremony of smudging, and it's when we have an auric field around us. And so, who's the shy one in this group? Not you. You are. Get over here. Okay, stand right there. Okay, so. How comfortable are you? Very uncomfortable.
Yes.
I'm in her field. Okay, are you more comfortable? Stretch your arms out wide. As wide as her arms are, that's her auric field around her. So when I started coming in, I was totally in her energy field. So, thank you. So this field around you, everybody has it, okay? It's our information taker inner, is all I can say. Or it holds your trauma, you know? And everybody has some type of trauma. Nobody's oblivious to it, right? And you know, we look and see each other and we think, oh, you're fine, you've got no problems. But they don't know what's inside, what happened to us maybe when we were a little girl or whatever. You know, we hold that trauma and we don't share it. But somewhere our body holds it. It holds it. And so, and then daily we have all this information always coming in, always coming in. And life is so busy now that you don't have the break. You're always so, your mind is always thinking. You go to sleep and your mind is busy, busy, busy. So how do you self-care? How do you look after yourself? How do you clean that field? How do you get rid of it? Get all that stuff that's been clinging to you, or maybe, you know, somebody has said something bad about you and it clings to you because it hurts you that somebody's being mean to you, right? So we do what we call sacred ceremony smudging, which we use the 4 sacred herbs that we believe that Creator gave us. And every area has their own sacred herbs, right? Here we have sage, sweetgrass, cedar, and tobacco in the pure form, right? And they all have an energy behind it. Sage is a feminine energy. It clears the inside and outside and is a protector. Cedar's a protector. Sweetgrass is like the braid of Mother Earth. It has that scent and it's got that unconditional love to it. And then we have tobacco, the first gift from Creator, because when you burn it, the smoke, you're sending your prayers to Creator. Now, you have to remember everything is symbolic. You know, when people take it literally, you can read the Bible. You can have one phrase. 10 different people will interpret it differently. You know, it's not written in stone. It's symbolic. And whatever comes to you is the information for you. So anyways, so when we do these smudge, the person is in prayer. You could be in a circle here. You're all in prayer for however that may be. And we symbolically are cleaning that field, and we're gifting it to Creator to transmute that energy into a positive energy rather than a negative energy, right? And it grounds you, and it gets you started in a good way. Well, Catholic Church, what do? They're lighting an incense ball. What are they doing? Smudging. The Buddhist prayer stick, they light it, sending their prayers to Creator. Symbolic. It's not to be taken literal, right? And so when we, like if I go and harvest sage down south, Cache Creek, Kamloops area, I ask permission first. Like I'm not getting them talking back to me, but I'm asking permission. Yeah, it's intention, exactly. Intention from here. And I only take what I need and I use it all. I don't, oh, this is garbage and throw it away. I don't do that. And I gift a little bit of something back, like I can gift some tobacco to Mother Earth or whatever. Some of my hair. Excuse me. And so I'm honoring the life cycle of Mother Earth, because she's a living being, and don't think she's not in charge. She may take so much garbage and then she starts to thunder and rain, create floods, burns the forest down, whatever. She's in charge, we're not. Again, symbolic. Does that make sense to you? Yeah.
That's a pretty good segue, because we are going to make some sage bath bombs with some sage that I gathered in a good way.
Good.
Last year.
Nice.
You're very welcome to join us, Darlene.
Well, I've got until probably 1 o'clock, or I have to be over there at 1:15.
We're going to try and wrap up by 1 o'clock too, because everybody's got Father's Day things to do.
Okay, yeah.
But, so ciao,
Oh,
from us. Thank you very much. And this is some Devil's Club sign that we made last week.
Oh, nice. I use Devil's Claw. Have you, any of you used any? My hands ache, or if my feet bother me, I put it on. It doesn't solve your issue. It minimizes the pain, and you can go without your being conscious of your pain. Like, yeah, I swear by Devil's Club cream. I don't make it though, but I get it. Yeah.
And this is in coconut oil, and I'm letting you know in case it gets hot out there today, don't turn it upside down.
I'll put it in my fridge. Use it. Thank you.
I just want to add something about symbolic, right? And being permission, asking permission. It also puts you in a field of gratitude. Yes. And presence, in present time, right? So you're conscious and aware.
Yes, exactly. It puts you in a moment of being in gratitude, and I think our society really lacks remembering what gratitude is because we're so busy. And then I ask you, what do you do for self-care? You know, because we are so busy. And it's like, do we take even 2 minutes sometimes seems hard to just go outside and breathe and see the beauty of our surroundings. Because, I mean, really, we live in a beautiful, beautiful world, you know, and it's devastating. And I look at it and I think, why is this earth plane always fighting and always at war? Like, why? Because is it our school where we have to learn? I don't know.
And I suggest we transition our conversations to downstairs so that we have a chance to make it before we all.
Oh yeah, you better get going because you and I talk too much.
Come and talk with us downstairs.
Thank you, Darlene.
Oh,